someone's gonna have to come in and wave to us that we have 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes more.
Yeah, and I get Max asked to do the time in for me.
Yeah.
And the phone, yeah, and he followed. There you are. So your son, he knows that last time I was trying to talk this.
Okay.
Oh, I can.
No.
You want to open it?
Yep.
All right.
Open it, we're gonna get right down to it.
All
Do
righty.
you have lots you have to tell them?
No, I was just gonna get everyone to quiet down, but if you want to.
I'll quiet them down.
Sorry.
I brought a cup, paper cups and water, and if you need someone to pass out the cups and the water, if you don't have them, because you're part of them. Okay, you want to do. And if you have your own water, keep, just say you don't need it. I need everyone to take, this much, and don't drink it until we say. Pretend it's the first drink you've had this morning, the very first, pretend. We're from the Women of First Light, Lisa and I, and Isaac is trying to hang out with us so badly. He's not doing such great work. It's really hard. We call ourselves a litter of kittens, and Ishbel, who would have been here, is the one that herds the cats all the time. It's really hard. And this is the song that I'll share with you from a journey I made after last course. And in Women, the First Light have adopted it because we didn't have to buy it. You just use it. And it speaks a lot to both of them. And elder guides, and child is born. Oh, she will fight for the setting sun. She'll move the ocean tide. With the power of her body. Wave your hand, wave your hand. Well, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah. Hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah. Hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah. Dawn breaks o'er the horizon as night sky fades to the rising sun. In life she goes on. Time feels are dim. Wave your head, wave your hide. Well, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah. Wave your head, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah. Hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah. Now, child fight and elders. Oh, we're loving. I love when someone knows to say, oh, not very, very few people, but you can, at the end of our song or chant or anything, the dance, we say, Yahoo! So pretend we're just finishing it. Away, away, yeah. Yahoo! Oh, because we're singing all the way to Hunter's Mountain, where all the people are there, where I should be. Saving her trees, saving her earth, saving Mother Earth. And so you just docked way over there. Well, being Dublin on Lockeye, we got a lock you up. Well, actually, and you may something. I'd like to introduce my, I don't even know how to describe her, except she's wearing earrings that I really should have. I have a pair like that, but okay.
That's okay. I don't live in down.
Oh, you can't say that. Robert gave that, and Robert Dark, because I said that. Oh, I like orange.
No, this is.
This is Lisa. And where's Isaac? Come on, get more water. Oh, there's a problem in the world. Never, oh, yeah.
Only has plastic.
Yeah, we didn't want plastic. Okay, so just before we start, I jumped ahead. The water is the womb of Mother Earth, the ocean. And it connects us all around the world. And in Women of First Light, it's one of the things we often do when we come together, having a guest, that is, we have first light ceremonies because, well, that's there. Because we are the women of first light, we see the light first. So I want you to take your water and I want you to acknowledge her. We offered a little water, we need some water out. Oh, here's our water, yes. That means no glass. Yeah. Okay, so I just want you to think, and we must drink it up. We have to acknowledge her for the water she gives us. It doesn't make much sense that we pollute the very water made us. So that's because of the exhibitions, some health issues that were. There was shit in the water and then we drink it. So we're gonna first light, so we offer her, and the first light ceremony is before the first light, we must leave. And we give our blessings and our acknowledgement. Water, we must drink it all, and it's okay if you can. I offer her the water first. Okay, so think of it as if this is the first water you drink at the beginning of first light ceremony. It has to be the very first thing. And remember, you're giving yourself beauty. Because this is made of big percentage. Well, 70%. So why do we keep doing this? Cheers.
Oh, I'm gonna be running the bathroom very soon.
I thought you were the same. You can. Where's our one that one,
Oh, good side.
Willing. I'm Pastor Martin, Government and Multi-Land from the Millbrook community in Perth. I also have my grandfather pondered the move on it. And somebody asked me yesterday, I just want to know, like, how is it that you're big, like,
like, is it like a great grandmother? I said, yeah, it could be a great grandmother, but my mom and dad are Mi'kmaq. Oh. So we're a little lighter on this coast. We've been here longer and we've met Europeans the longest. So just so you know.
Yep. Eu believe this, Lisa Purley, that church, Jay on the book. The annual week in, Takǔmegoochk. Anyway, so my name is Lisa. Totally First Nation in, Bostigo, which is the Bostigo territory, Takǔmegoochk, which is also known in English as Vallentin. So I'm residing there right now. So, anyway, so is the beautiful and bountiful river that runs through the territory we represent. And, we name ourselves after that river, we're the Woskawee Creek. And the territory is and I'm just honored to be here and to be asked to be part of presentation of universal, and being on, Mi'kmaq territory to, it's a great honor to, come share our stories of resilience. Like, what we're doing is surviving. It's a story in and of itself. Yeah, so my story and I'm still here.
Can everybody hear us okay? Do we need to have this?
Yes.
Do we need it? Is we recording it or something?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. I feel weird being the only one using the microphone to introduce myself. Yeah. My name is Isaac Vallentin. I am the executive director for Tatamagouche Centre. So I work really closely with Women of First Light as we're in the process of rematriating the center. So I've worked there for just under a year now. Was born in Southern Ontario, so I come from near Six Nations territory, and haven't lived there for a long time. Like many of us, I'm pretty displaced from a lot of, ancestrally and just in my own life. But I've called Mi'kmaq my home for 5 years now. I live in Pictou, and I have a 3-year-old daughter, and so I'm tired. And yeah, that's what I'll say about myself for now. Thank you.
So to get started, we're going to start with this.
Sure.
Do you think?
Yeah, sure.
It kind of gives a sense.
Give the background. So the larger context that Tatamagouche Centre it's this retreat center up in.
Sorry, the reason I said yes to the microphone is it's an accessibility measure.
Gotcha.
For everybody.
Sorry. Is it okay if I just kind of give a bit of context and, okay, cool. And we can sit down, yeah. So Tatamagouche Centre, the land that we call Tatamagouche Centre, is Mi'kmaq and has been a traditional gathering place, hunting ground for the Mi'kmaq for forever, really. There's also some burial sites on the property, and it was purchased by the United Church about 70 years ago. Prior to that, it had been various waves of Acadian and European settlers' homesteads and different tenant farming from all the different waves of people, European folks running themselves in and running each other out of there and war and stuff like that. And so for the last 70 years, the United Church set it up as like a training facility for lay ministry and for their clergy as well, I guess, to go get, a bit more enlightened about the work that they're doing in their communities to try and, help in the ways that they could help. And that progressed, my understanding is up until the 80s when it became a lot more non-denominational, a lot more social justice focused. And the programming at the center and the intention of the center focused a lot more towards programming outside of just the context of the Christian world and stuff like that. So these days it's, there's still like the United Church community is still one of the many sort of groups that I think finds a home in the center. But I think we'll see a lot about it in the presentation. There's been the Indigenous Peace and Friendship Project that's been at the center for, you need this? Okay.
It's a slideshow.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go through the slideshow soon, but that's kind of where we're at basically is that, the United Church is letting go of this property, and that's a process for that whole group. And there's many other groups. The local community is a really big part of who the center serves. Lots of other nonprofits in the area. It's a bit of a hub for all the other nonprofits. And so it's a real meeting space for all different walks of people. And this has been a pretty long process of rematration. And I guess we'll talk about that more in the slideshow. So, hey, that works out. Do you want to do some speaking?
Well, it speaks for itself pretty much. We are a women-led process of restoring the sacred relationships between Indigenous peoples and their ancestral lands, honoring matrilineal systems. It's all about healing, balance, restoring, and modeling ancestral ways of being, honoring the cultural and spiritual significance of the land to its original caretakers, ensuring the land is managed and cared for by those who have a deep spiritual connection to her, and restoring traditional stewardship. So here you see a picture of a longhouse that we built a while ago. It's not there now. Yeah, the hurricane took it, and that's okay, that we accept that. But that's part of the focus of bringing back our land is to build a lodge, a healing lodge, a lodge in our way. Okay, you can flick it. Wabanaki is the Women of First Light. Our purpose is to heal our communities, families, and society by remembering and returning to the traditional ways of our ancestors. The Women of First Light, like Lisa and myself, and the core group of us, kept meeting at conferences like this. And we would get to say hi to each other, and then we have to go to the next one, or we never have a chance for our own healing. And we have a lot of work to do, so we have to be healthy if we're going to help others and her, the earth. So we said, you know what, why don't we just kind of get a group and just have a couple gatherings, just us. That's how we started, because we never get a chance to sit and we really need each other. So that's how it started. And then it just started becoming like a magnet. Everybody wanted to give us money. We never started out to say we wanted money. We just wanted to go to Tatamagouche Centre and hang around. Anyway, there's such a long history to it. It's been around for 7 or 8 years now. It's always been here. It's just that we pulled it back up out of the earth to bring it back. And we've had a ball. But the problem is we have so much work to do. We still don't get to sit and be with each other. But we know this is our work. We know this is why we were revived, to bring back our earth, to save it for the future generations. And the sacred teachings, or the teachings of the women, because it's women that are in this group, we want to teach our own women, our own young women, and our women, because a lot of them have not had the opportunity, for all the reasons we all know, to know their culture and to connect. And so that's why we're together, and we the Tatamagouche Centre, some of you will go see it tomorrow. It's pulled us together. It's a very spiritual place, and Isaac has sort of, we love Isaac and we laugh at him because he comes into this mess. Did you have any idea? You did? Okay. Anyway, not a mess. It's just like a tangled web that we've woven, and he's got to figure it out. Anyway, so that's why we're here, and you can go to the next one. We have lots of gatherings. I don't know where this one is. And oh, look at her. I know that woman, the one with the second one in, but the first one is Mi'kmaq and Lisa Pearly Dutcher with brown hair, and that's Maggie Powell, and that's Alma Brooks. And in the background, I don't know. You would, I don't. So they are women of First Light, and they're powerful women. There's a couple more, and we love getting together. So the grants and the money that we get is great because we get to bring everybody who wants to come sometimes, and sometimes we have nothing, and that's okay. So we have a really nice model to teach people. We speak from our hearts. We speak the truth in a gentle way, in a kind way, in a way that we all accept. And so it's unconditional love. And I am so grateful to my children who've both passed recently and 14 years ago, for coming to me and teaching me unconditional love. Through our gatherings, workshops, and land-based education, people gain a sense of belonging, a connection to our culture, to our spirituality, and our worldview. We model the values of kinship where everybody is accepted and no judgment. And through ceremonies, there's healing, letting go to creating room for love, hope, healing, and light. And that's a moose hide being scraped by youth, because we do a lot of land-based things. I don't like calling them teachings or learnings or whatever. We do a lot of land-based experiences because we want our youth, like we were talking about in the previous circle, we want them to come back and to survive. And they need our teachings from our ancestors to survive what is in front of them. Is there more?
Can you explain a little bit about that activity that they were doing?
Oh, well, that's a moose hide. And right now I was telling you about the women and the other people up at Hunter's Mountain trying to stop clear cutting from the home, one of the many homes of our moose. And we have a moratorium on our moose because of have been suffering from clear cutting and everything else, overshooting, overhunting. And, but anyway, this is something we did for over 14,000 years. We shoot the moose, we scrape it, we use every part of the moose, and that will be used for clothing, for drums, for all kinds of things. So they have scrapers, it used to be stone tools, but now it's, I don't know, we have all different great tools. And believe me, we are very grounded in our roots. But if we can scrape with a modern scraper versus getting our scraping, and some of us do with our old stones, we're going to do that. Like Joe Gugu, who's one of my closest friends, and he's all about the moose, he would say, like he was power washing some of these because people keep dropping them off. He said, if you have a moose hide, don't waste it. And so people are dropping off dead moose hides at their house. Of course, they're dead moose hides. They still have spirit. This is what we do. She's just sitting there making me laugh. Anyway, so they're scraping the hair off on both sides, and then it's tanned, and depending on what it's going to be, if it's going to be a drum or a beautiful, that's pretty nice too. And so that's what a moose hide, that's one of the things we use it for, but for lodges, we use everything. Every part of the moose. Thanks for asking that. I just assume everybody knows these things. Okay, is there another one? All our relations, Emsit Nogama is what we say, all our relations in Mi'kmaq. Yeah, in kinship with Mother Earth. So this is Tatamagouche Centre, where there's some sweetgrass patches around there. And we're also trying to save those. So I don't usually tell anybody where this is. We do keep our sweetgrass patches secret because there's so many have been destroyed. As soon as anybody, even our own, hear about them, they pick it if they don't understand how to pick. Maggie Paul teaches us that very well. So that's the Women of First Light, and that's what we're doing right now. We do a lot of things. We're nurturing young women to take over or to fall into place, but they need a lot of help because they're misunderstanding a lot of the ways. And a lot of people think, oh, I went to a sweetgrass ceremony and a smudge, so now I can be a smudger and I can do everything without doing any of the work. And there's a lot, and there's a lot of work to be doing what Lisa's doing right now. And you don't just do a pipe ceremony with someone or drum and say, now I can do that. Be very careful who you join with, make sure you know who they are, if they've worked for their thing. And if they get insulted, well, you're probably sure that they haven't done the work. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say, and then I'm going to pass it on. And this journey, the rematriation, one of the greatest reasons I came here is I'm asking for help. We are asking for help. If you know anyone that can help us in this rematriation, please send them to our site. We need money to help this process, all of us, to move on to the next level. And you'll learn a little more about that from Isaac, but I'm going to try to give us 5 minutes, but I bet we won't have the time. Is it good to go to Lisa first? Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about like what it's like to do my job, basically. I stepped in a year ago, and like you said, like, did I know it was going to be a bit of a bird's nest to kind of, take apart? And yeah, but I live in a rural community, and there's few people out there, and I have a history of working with Indigenous folks. Maggie Paul and her daughter Anne were people I worked with a number of years ago, and I had a history of consulting for nonprofits. So they basically said, "Hey, you're the guy. You need to do this." And I said, "Okay, sure." And it's challenging because, yeah, for all of those of us who are going to come to the field trip tomorrow, it's a 15-acre campus with 7 buildings. It takes 12 people to run it. And the buildings one of them's the oldest building in the village. It's over 200 years old. And then leading up until the 70s, really. So it's infrastructurally challenging. And my job is to try to make, the real intentions of rematriation come to fruition in the tangible nitty-gritty part of life. So I'm the one who has to spend a lot of time looking at Excel spreadsheets, and I'm also the one who has to jump into a septic system and fix a pipe, or get on a roof and patch a roof, or work late to invite guests, or cook for 40 people in the kitchen if someone shows up sick. So it's a bit like running a conference center hotel like this for all the groups that come visit. And it's a bit like running a summer camp for the villagers and the kids and everybody who uses it like a park. And it's a bit like running a charity for the purposes of the intentions for that land and space long-term with rematration. And tangibly, the biggest challenge is that, well, because the center is still currently owned by the United Church, and this is a lot of stuff that I'm sure many of you know, Ascatulisk in Illinois, the old Windhorse farm that is now known as Ascatulisk. So this is a really great regional example of a similar kind of initiative that you'd either call land back or rematration or something like that. And they've gone through that process a lot further than we have, and they've been really generous in sharing their knowledge and experience from that. And, you know, one of the first, if this were a video game, one of our first boss battles is going to be like, okay, the insurance company. You know, so that's the first hurdle that we really have to fundraise for, basically, because the second that that deed is transferred over from the United Church to Women of First Light, that big old insurance policy that covers all the United Church buildings is no longer going to be valid. And a bunch of insurance people are going to descend upon the center like vultures and pick it apart. And it's not going to be up to code, and it's going to need what we've estimated is, you know, probably $1 million or more of work to keep the doors open and keep people flowing through it. And that's the biggest hurdle for us to currently navigate, is figuring out how we can do that step of the transition while still remaining open to the public and still offering everything that the center offers, because it is really a lifeline for a lot of people in the community. It's a rural community without a whole lot of supports. And so we end up being the place that receives a lot of people in need whenever things are going crazy in their lives. And that's happening more and more in the world today. So it's important that we stay able to help and serve people while also navigating this transition. So that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do with everybody's help. We're all trying to figure this out. And yeah, part of the reason that I guess we're all here is it's really important to talk to our larger community and our larger networks and learn from everybody, because everybody here probably has, in the face of, you know, capitalism and where we're at, maybe just as challenging a project in their hearts or something like that, that they want to see come into the world for the benefit of everybody in their communities. So it's really important that, you know, my life really looks like most days is that I'm in a giant building by myself trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And so it can be pretty isolating and maddening at times. And I'm lucky that it's a land-based center and that there's a lot of land to go to when you need some support or guidance from a place that isn't a spreadsheet or your emails. So I'm lucky that that's a huge support to have. But I think we can all learn a lot from each other, and yeah, so I think that'll be beneficial.
It's Tatamagouche Centre, you'll learn a lot about it tomorrow, but in case you're not going, is a very powerful sacred place where two rivers come together and they go into the ocean. And it's a very powerful place. When I said money, I don't know why that came out, because I never say that. I'm also here. I'm really here, and your knowledge is more important to me than money. And I think we're going to learn a lot, and you might have some help to offer us. But that's my grandparents' hunting and trapping and fishing territory. And it's important to me, and I guess that's why I'm there. And I know that's why I'm there. And I've been working with the Peace and Friendship, what do we call it? The project? Yeah. But the Peace and Friendship is based on our Peace and Friendship Treaty, and that's the only treaty we ever signed with the British. I mean, we signed many treaties and amended them, but only peace and friendship we never gave up our land. We never were conquered, even though they have tried in many ways to commit genocide on us, cultural genocide by taking the land. Like that's murder. When you take us from the land we are from. We come from the land. And so our ancestors are pushing us over there, but you're going to hear another place. And there's nothing wrong with land back. We're not saying buying or selling. No, we're not. We don't own land. You can't own Mother Earth. And we always knew that, but we can take care of her. And so we're a little nervous because we are just like we look like old grannies, but like we've come from a huge activist background. We don't tell anybody that until we get attacked. No, anyway, so Tatamagouche Centre is one of the many places. Windhorse Farm was was operated by a group, and they worked with Olnewig Development Corporation to bring the land back. But they're finding, oh yeah, we got the land, but it's costing us. Like if we got the land back and there was nothing on it, that would be great. But that's what's happening. And I assure people when I'm talking about land back or treaties, we never gave up our land, but we never owned our land. You don't own land. It's a strange concept. And what it has caused is our young people, native and non, not affording to live here, and especially not on the ocean. Most of our ocean fronts have been purchased by Europeans, mostly German and the Americans. And they've bought up our coast because our governments never thought much about that, and they didn't think 7 generations ahead about your own children, their own children. Would they be able to live here? And no. And where I live near Peggy's Cove, Blind Bay, there was 90 acres of land that was untouched. And a developer came and bought it for a song and a dance and developed it. And now it's owned by, and it's no offense to the German people, but they have a lot of money and they are able to buy a lot of land. And they've bought that land and developed it, and probably 10% live there. And the rest come for 2 weeks out of the year. And our young people can't live there. And it's where we can live, and we can fish and we can hunt. We can live like the Mi'kmaq lived on the coast in the summer and in the woods in the winter. So anyway, that is not acceptable to the future generations. And we're going to be seen in the 7 generations about what did we do for them. Anyway, that's where I'm at. And her claim to fame, actually, Jeremy Dutcher's claim to fame is his mother. And I always say, without his mother, we would not have Jeremy just blessing our world with such beautiful work. And Maggie Paul, who's helping Jeremy, because that's what we do. And we find people that we know need help and we help them. But we also find our stars, the ones that are gifted higher than most of us. He's gifted. And I just honor Lisa. It's not just Jeremy, because there's a couple others in that family that have amazing gifts, but we're just talking about Jeremy today. Yeah. So her work is important for many reasons, and Lisa will tell us.
Jubilee and Kathy, you always know how to make me feel really shy. Just, humbled in some ways, and I really am so, the Women of First Light, I just have to say, this story of Women of First Light, it's such a beautiful group of people that have come together with the vision of healing ourselves, but also, creating a space that helps to protect the land. And I think when I first started attending the meetings and stuff like that, and I realized that these women were my sisters. And I realized that they were, how you choose you're born with your sisters, and then you choose your sisters. And these women were my sisters, are my sisters. And you don't have to, the nice thing is you don't really have to explain, the traumas and all the stuff that you've been through. We all have had our own traumas, and our historical context is the same pretty much. And, so when we sit there and we talk about our dreams and our visions and what we hope to accomplish, we all are there to lift each other up in that work. And it's really important that you find people that can do that with you, because like you're saying, it's lonely when you're trying to do something as great as, create space, good space for people to come. You need to have a community that embraces you and lifts you up. And hopefully that's what we do too. Just give us a call, we'll come. Kathy's the closest, I think. No, ish. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got ish, yeah. But yeah, so I'm a bit of a ways, might take me a while to get here. I do have a presentation, I think is it up there?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go behind only because I don't like twisting my neck. I'm gonna, okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm not that talented, too many. Even though she says, I was like, anyway, I'd also like to recognize my partner in crime is here as well. And my husband is there, Stephen. And, we were walking to come here, and I was like, the convention center, where is this convention center? And he's like, oh, I think it's over here. So we were walking around, roaming around in downtown Halifax. We got in 2:00 this morning. And so my brain's a little foggy. I had to do an opening for Elizabeth. Yeah, in Fredericton, and I did not want to pass that up. So I thought, even if it gets me in Halifax at 2:00 in the morning, I'm going to do it. So Gaki Min, as you can see on our logos, and that's our logo there, means teach me. And teach me in Wolastoqey language is, as I teach you, you are also teaching me. So it's a reciprocal process that happens, and it is understood in our language. Our language is very beautiful that way, as well as it is as Mi'kmaq. We share a lot of similar, we're worldview, and our language is there's so much poetry in our language, the way that we say things, the way that we describe things. And Gakimin is one of those words that describes that process of reciprocity, of as I teach you, I also learn. So next slide. So like I said, I'm from the Wolastoq, and this is our beautiful river. That's an old picture of our ancestors that build our birch bark canoes, and the first thing colonizers do when they came was they started renaming everything. So one of the things that they renamed was our Wolastoq River. They named it St. John River. And so, our people are in that process, and the canoe below is our people reclaiming the river back, giving its name back. And we had a whole ceremony around that. And now a lot of, I'd probably say a good portion of people who live in the area call it Wooloostook now. But it took a process, like it's that renaming, and I'm seeing a lot of the renaming here as well, and everywhere. And I think in order for us to reclaim, we have to start renaming back to the original names. And to me, that's a really important process. So that's our next slide, yeah. And again, just the territory of where we're at, just geographically, where we're located. The Mi'kmaq people are all along the ocean, and then we're more inland people. We're in the fresh water. And actually, Wooloostook itself means a peaceful wave. So it's a place where there's, and I like, we're considered peaceful people too. Most of the time, just don't get us mad, yeah. just as Kathy said. Next slide.
I always say we're muddowis.
Muddowis.
That's a porcupine, and they're
Yeah.
pretty calm,
Yeah,
but
Muddowis.
happen.
And as Kathy was saying earlier, we come from a strong matriarchal culture, and where our women are, they're activists. They when there's an injustice, they try to do something about it. Feminism was like, when I started learning about feminism, I was like, why? Women, like, why? We know we're in control. It's like, you don't have to prove that to anybody, so it's like, it was kind of it's a different, but Shirley Bear there, she's definitely, she always called herself an activist, she's down at the bottom with the hat on, yeah. She's a famous artist that has passed on to the spirit world, and there's my mom in her regalia with a cigarette in her hand too. Should be mad at me for saying that. And then this book here is called Enough is Enough. And that's when a lot of those women are my relatives there, and they marched to Ottawa to change a bill that discriminated against women. And they changed that along with Mary Tuax Early. And now women don't lose their rights as an Indigenous woman from their communities. They're allowed to be buried in their communities. They're allowed to bring their children and their families. But before that, if they married a non-Native person, then they would have to leave. But if a man married a non-Native person, then she could come with her children. So it was a huge discrimination against us. And women from my community fought for that. And it was changed. So I got a long history of activism.
Based on Senator Glover.
And Senator, yeah, she was the case study. Yes, thanks for saying that. She was the one that went to, the women chose her as the case study to go to the Supreme Court of Canada, and that Bill C-31 was changed for sure. Yeah, Leewin. Colonization process, of course, like I said earlier, it affects us all. And it is the context from which we are working out of. I went to day schools myself, and I was able to go home at night to my family, which I'm grateful for. But we still experienced a lot of the harshness of education being pushed on us, foreign way, a foreign language, foreign culture. And, just trying to figure yourself out in a world that, is being taken from you. So that's kind of my context. Next slide. And, so as I was in these day schools, of course, my language was being attacked, and we weren't allowed to speak our language, not one word. If you were heard speaking one word of the language, you were strapped severely, or you were humiliated. You would be brought in front of the class and would be hit with stick. So, so to me, part of my own healing was to to give that back to myself. And I realized that later on in my life, that was going to be part of my journey. Once you realize that, you know, when a language dies, like you lose so much more than words. You lose a way of being and thinking in the world. And it really shapes what your culture is and how you express things. Like I said, in our language, things are very poetic, like Upchich until we meet again. You don't say goodbye. You don't say, this is not a way that we would say that to one another. It's until we meet again in this plane or the next, wherever we're going to, you know. And so next slide. So again, part of my transformational journey was to kind of go in and say, okay, well, what are some of the things that I need some healing from? And I really felt that disconnect from my culture and my language. And so I knew after my nursing career and raising my children and doing all the busyness of life that you do when you're trying to raise kids and family, that, you know, you really start to look at yourself and reflect and see, you know, how's my spirit? How, you know, what do I need to do? What do I need to work on? What am I going to do now? So that's kind of where my journey really moved into language revitalization. Then I realized like that, yeah, once all my family, the females in my family had died off, and I wasn't hearing the language as much anymore in my circles. And I was like, wait a minute, there's not that many speakers. And it didn't really occur to me until like they had all passed, because I always heard it around me. And then once they passed, I realized, wait a minute, there's not that many speakers left in my community. And then I come to find out that, you know, we have less than 100 fluent speakers left. And that's really scary. That's a scary thought. I thought, well, you know, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to learn how to read and write in my language. And I'm going to, you know, put myself in that really vulnerable place of trauma, really, because language work is trauma work when you're trying to give yourself something that was, you know, very forcibly taken from you and in a very harmful way. Next slide. So anyway, like Kathy mentioned, one of my babies, in my healing, as I was kind of going through all this loss in my family, because I had lost 3 matriarchs in my family in 1 year, and they were the ones that kind of kept me together. I knew I needed to have some time for myself, so I actually moved away. I moved to Jubocto for 1 year. Thought, well, I always want to live in Halifax. I'm going to go move to Halifax and go live there for a little while. I moved here and I worked and did some healing. And during that time, my son Jeremy was doing an album, and he didn't really tell me what he majored in music, so I knew he was doing something with music, but I just didn't know what. Anyway, until one day he sent me his album, and this was before it was released, and he's like, can you just listen and see, you know, what you think? So me and my husband were listening to it one day, and we both looked at each other, and I started crying. I was bawling, and he kept listening to it, and I was like, okay, you have to stop listening to that, because I can't get nothing done. I'm emotional wreck. So I was like, then I really knew, like, and then because he was using our language, and I thought, he grew up hearing the language. He didn't grow up speaking the language. So he was really hit me on several fronts. He was hitting me on the front that I never brought him up in the language. And, you know, I didn't really see the beauty in the music that he through his, his operatic training. I could never, like, I would always say to him, why are you doing, like, I get, like, you love to sing, but why would you choose opera? Like, that's such a colonial music style. Anyway, so, you know, I learned so much through him, and he taught me so much, about himself and about me. And, so, but he just was pushing forward. He's like, you know, this is it. Language. How come we're not speaking the language? And, you know, kept pushing me into it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going back to school. Went back to school, and that's my graduating class right there. And then he started doing some concerts to support an idea that a small group of us were thinking about, was maybe how do we, with so few speakers left, what are we going to do? So we got talking about it in the class, and there's about 4 of us that said, why don't we start early years center where we would teach young kids. And so next slide. So this small group, these are a few of us, including my cousin Ron, who's the Grand Chief of the Wolastoq. We all kind of got together and thought, you know, we can do this. Like, you know, we're used to kind of thinking out of the box anyway. So we thought, well, you know, let's try and sit around my table. We did that for a lot of days, and then we kind of came up with the idea that we were going to go for it. And that sign, just do it. Well, we just did it. So we just kind of didn't wait we realized nobody was going to do this for us, that we had to do it for ourselves. And there was nobody knocking at our door like the women of First Light and saying, you know, we're going to give you some money. And we didn't have that. People didn't understand the urgency of the language loss and what that meant to us. So, you know, we just kept at it, meeting after meeting, like I said. Next slide. And, you know, things like the UN Declaration, UNDRIP came out as well during these same years, and, you know, which really came out and stated that, you know, Indigenous people have the right to establish and control their educational system and institutions providing education in their own languages in a manner appropriate to their culture, methods of teaching. So, like, to us, we had this, like, coming out, and they were declaring this. And we're like, yes, that's right. We do have that right. Every person has a right to speak their language. You know, that should not be taken away from them. And if it has been taken away from them, it should be given back, or the opportunity should be given back to them to have their language back. So this is kind of what kept us going, as well as having that as a message out there to the world. The United Nations was declaring this. Next slide. So again, we got established in 2021 as an non-for-profit or incorporation. And our goal was basically to teach our children in our language through our worldview. So this was going to have to be private, because the thing was, you know, this wasn't going to happen in the school system that we currently have. We knew that. That the values that we carry are not going to be upheld in the school system. There was no immersion programs for Wolastoq. There is some immersion programs for Mi'kmaq in Eskasoni and Listagouche. So there's some programming there that is available for Mi'kmaq people, but not for Wolastoq. And it's really important, because as I said, you know, what happens when a child doesn't grow up in their culture or their language, they lose something. They lose a real sense of pride and identity in who they are. And we wanted to make sure that, you know, we're going to try to undo what has been done to us. We don't want our kids to go through the same sorts of degradation as we did as children. We want them to come out with pride in themselves. And yeah, and our program includes a lot of our elders, and we'll show you some of the pictures there if you want to change the slide. So one of the first things we did, because we had no money, and there's Jeremy there. It's my baby, he's taller than me. Anyway, so one of the things we sitting around the table, we decided to do was, hey, why don't we start talking to different people? And Ron, my cousin, I don't think he's there. No, he's not there. But one of the things he said, well, I'm meeting with Mayor Kate, the mayor of Fredericton. Why don't you come along? I said, sure, they'll come along. And so we started talking to the mayor. She's the one in the middle there. Maggie's on one side and I'm on the other side. And she's like, yeah, one of the things that actually, so we have a really sacred park in Fredericton, and it's called Odell Park. And I knew this is like sacred ground for the city. Like this is like, so when I went in there, I said, I knew by asking for Odell, that was going to be like a litmus test to see where they're at. And so it's like, we would really like, because we want to have a land-based school. So it wasn't so much having a structural piece. It was more about the land that we wanted. So we could have the land-based school. So we went in and I said, yeah, we'd really like to have Odell Park as kind of like a land back kind of, so we could start a school. And I could just see there was like 8 people in the room and they were all looking at me like, and and so the room went really quiet and so I started talking about why it's so important to give back. We're giving back what was taken from the children. And the TRC calls to action are, they're here now, and it's calling out to all non-Indigenous people to give where they can and act where they can act in good ways. And so she said, maybe not Odell Park, but she says, we do have another piece of land that might be of interest to you. And we're like, okay, so what would that land be? And she's like, well, we have Killarney Lake Lodge. And she's like, we could look and see what, could be available for you there. So anyway, it was a strategy that I went in with, and it worked nice because I thought, like, you aim for the stars, right? And then you just get knocked down a few pegs and I'm still good. So so it was a historic partnership we came into the city with. And so they gave us, it's kind of an old building, but I'll show you it in a bit, but it's kind of run down, dilapidated. You talk about dilapidated, we've got a dilapidated building, but it's not so much the building that we're interested in, it's the land. Because like I said, we are running a land-based school. We wanted access to the land. And this place is phenomenal. And I'm glad we didn't get Odell Park, because this place is like the piece of land that you need to have kids in. And so anyway, the next slide. So this is the house. It's not totally dilapidated, but I mean, the inside was pretty, it was like nobody was looking after this place, but the city owned it. So they're like, well, we'll give you this house for a lease. We'll lease you this house for 10 years and the land that's with it. And then, we'll see how it goes. So these guys are from the military. So they offered, I don't know how do you remember how we made the connection with them? Was it through a powwow with, what's his name? Yeah. Yeah, I can't really remember the total, how we connected with the military. But the military is like, yeah, we can bring some guys in and help. Oh, it was through the TRS, the Orange Shirt Day thing. I think that they were at an event and they're like, how can we help? I was like, hey, now that you ask, I was like, we have an old house we need to have gutted for one thing. And would your people be willing to come in and help us out? Oh yeah, I'll get together. It took about 6 months to get them there, but it did happen through all the red tape and bureaucracy that it took for them. So a lot of them, great people came and they did it, they gutted that whole house in one day. Yeah, so, it was a really, to see people that were, really sincere about helping. That was such a beautiful thing for me to, to witness. So sometimes asking and sometimes offering too, because if you do have access to people or resources, then, offering is really nice. Next slide. So this is the inside. They took all the walls out and it's still in pretty bad shape. I mean, they cleaned all that up, but, so this is kind of like something that we're either thinking that, we had a couple, assessors come in and tell us how much it's gonna cost us to give us what we want. And it's going to be about $400,000. Compared to what you guys are asking, I guess it's not that much, but I mean, we're kind of, that's where the ballpark of where we're at with this place. So we've been doing fundraising. Jeremy's been helping us. He does help, yeah. Oh, he does fundraising concerts, and he gets out there and talks about this work, which is really important. And like Kathy said, it's not just about the money. It's about having allies that talk about things that are important to us, not trying to tell us what we should be important to us. These are the things that are important to us, and we want to revitalize. We want to give ourselves the things back that were taken from us. And I think that to us is rematration. And I think that, whether it's in the form of land or language or whatever it is, I think that's really the healing part of it. Next slide. And this is the lodge where they give us a year-to-year lease in here until we get that other place fixed up. So we did start our school 3 years ago, and this was our first classroom. It's morphed a little bit from this, but not by much. Next slide. And so what we did before we started is we went to go visit these other places. Eskasoni, we went to Eskasoni's immersion school. And then we went to Listowich to see how they do their land-based program. So we went to go learn from what other people are doing and to create our own program. And so to us, we wanted to have a good sense, because we don't have a lot of literature out there. We don't have like a how-to book of how do you save your language, and how do you have resources so that you can help teach kids the ways of the language. So I think you have my book bag, do you? Okay, so we've done a lot of resource development, but I'll share that with you in a minute. Next slide. So this is our first cohort of teachers. So this is us, our first year, and Ron was our elder at the time, and yeah, so we try to have elders involved in every year, but not overwhelming them too, because this working with little kids can be overwhelming sometimes. Next slide. This was our first graduating class. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they were a great, happy bunch, and they amazing the language that they were absorbing in the year, because the thing, a lot of these kids is they didn't have language at home either. So this was their first introduction to language, and we did have one kid that had a lot of language with his grandmother, who was also involved in the school. But one of the girls, we named her Muin, which means bear in our language. One of the things, her great grandparents came to the school. We had a little gathering for invited families and everything, and they're both Indigenous from the community, and they came in and they looked me square in the eye. They said, Lisa, that we never thought in our wildest dreams that our great grandchild would come to our home and speak our language. Thank you for doing that. Makes me want to cry. when I think about it, because I said, well, you're the reason, you are the reason we're doing this. And for them and the generations to come, so that they will have our language, our way of being. And yeah, so I mean, these kids, like I said, it's been quite a journey. Next slide. We do like a lot, the other thing too was a lot of kids, like food security was an issue. Yeah, I know, eh? Food security was an issue. We had to go and buy them snowsuits because we had a land-based school. And, you know, we wanted the kids to get muddy, to get dirty. We didn't want them, you know, we wanted them to be in relationship with the earth. And this was one way that we felt like that's what's so disconnecting about the school system right now is our kids are in a classroom all day long and they're so disconnected from the environment. No wonder they don't care about the environment because they're not in relationship with it. And so if you can teach them at this age to be in relationship with the environment, they learn to love it. A couple things that, just a couple examples, we had one of the kids, when they first came, every bug they saw, they would want to step on it, like crunch it right to death. Like, it's like, no, we have to tell them, no, this is a living thing. We don't do that to living things. And, or Muin would always, every time she saw a frog or anything that she wanted to capture it, take it home. I said, no, we don't own. That belongs to the earth. That little frog has a mom that's probably out there looking for it. And after I told her that, she's like, okay. The mom's looking for this frog, so I better put it back. And so, you know, I mean, you teach them empathy. You teach them how to have respect for living things. It's not just language that we're teaching them. We're teaching them values and how to be with the earth. And like they're smudging there every morning, they're teaching the ceremonies, they learn the ceremonies, they learn to say our language in that ceremony when they're smudging. They hear our music. It's just like, it's such a beautiful experience that we've been able to give these kids. And, you know, to me, it's been worth every little bit of time that I've put into it. Next slide. Again, just outdoor fun. These kids just love to be outdoors. And, you know, even if we did have some kids that had behavioral issues. So one of the things that we learned, because we were not autistic specialists or child behavior specialists, that, you know, kids need to be outdoors. Their behaviors change totally when they're outdoors. You can find kids in a small space. Of course, they're going to act up. You put them outside, they just love, they're exploring, they're not in each other's face all the time. So it really gives them a sense of wellness too and balance. Next slide. And they all got animal names too, so that's a fun thing that so they're, you know, we have Muin, we have Guabid, we have Zigalad, the shark. So there are all kinds of, there's all kinds of names that they get. And so this is at the Killarney. There's also a beach there, which is really nice because so we got this sand that they can just go play there and have fun. Next slide. Oh, this is a little video. It's okay, we'll just skip that. It's just a short video. Yeah, can you, I don't know, would you guys have to put it on or? So this is Louis teaching kids about colors outside. And it's a little game that he created. Our teachers are very creative. Once you give them the space to create, they really take off. It's okay if you can't get it started. Should be just oh, you did find it.
Love videos.
A little louder, maybe.
married.
Yeah, so what they're doing is, they're asked to learn about the colors, so we teach them colors. But it's go find Wizawayu, Dama Wizawayu, Baswaswas.
Trying to find my way. Zuna Bachite. What is that? Zuna Bachite. Can you say that one? You bet. Yeah.
I can't do it.
Okay, dig it. Kidama.
So that's just kind of one of the techniques that they use to teach about color, as opposed to sitting in the classroom and memorize or, coloring. This is, you go out and find, see the color in the beauty of outdoors, what's out in front of us. Next slide. And we also teach them about gardening. And so in the spring, we start preparing our little garden things, and we only grow the things that we know that they'll eat. So we ask them, what do you want to grow? We're very child-led. So it's like, what do you want? What would you like to grow? And so that's the things that we grow.
Pumpkins and that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't bring in pumpkins, but I'm glad in a way, because pumpkins would take the whole space. But the sunflower, we have when my husband's a photographer, so he is fascinated with sunflowers too, and he was taking all kinds of pictures of sunflowers and bees, and one of the pictures he took, I was just so struck with. I said, there's something that's screaming to me about this sunflower. I said, you can't help but smile when you see a sunflower. It's just so cheery and beautiful. And I said, and that's what our logo is based on, is the sunflower. And I'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the symbology around it. But yeah, so that's kind of what inspired Gakimen symbol. Right there is the sunflower. Next slide. So this is 4 generations of people that have been involved in our school. There's Maggie Paul and her 2 great-grandchildren, and her granddaughter and her daughter Ann. And yeah, so that's the kind of place we want to have, is like where multi-generations are involved in the learning of the language. Next slide. And yeah, we really, it was said by an elder that, and I think it was a prophecy, Kathy, you might have heard it as well, that it was going to be the children that was going to wake the world up. It was about the Indigenous, what's going on with Indigenous people. And, I've heard an elder say, when I heard that, I thought, oh, it's the children. But we didn't realize it was going to be the children that had passed, that didn't get to live. And when they revealed those open graves, those grave sites, and saw how many children were murdered at these residential schools, it just like blew up in the world. I think people realized how cruel that process of colonization was to Indigenous people, and continues to be. So I think this really opened the hearts of a lot of people, and it really opened our heart. I mean, we knew the residential schools and how terrible they were. We didn't, because I mean, I didn't go myself, but we didn't know how terrible it was, because nobody talked about it in our community. Nobody wanted to talk about residential school. It was a hush-hush thing that nobody talked about. And once we started learning the details, and I know Stephen and I worked with Isabel Knockwood, and when I read her book and listening to her stories, I was like, oh my God, like this is just unbelievable that, people could be treated in this way. And yeah, so I mean, that really helped to really solidify the work that we were doing, to say, we're trying to undo all that damage. That's what we're doing. We're trying to undo that. And so that kind of really gave us to get up and go, to keep on going. So thank you to those children who didn't get to live and didn't get to live their lives out. Julie, next slide. And again, what we do at the Killarney, because we have walking trails there and it's a beautiful park, we invite people to come on our short day, and we'll do like a whole education thing with the community who wants to come. And this is the playhouse that we had that year, and people who were allies, we asked them to take their hand and put it on the playhouse as a symbol of support to Takǔmegoochk and to the children. Next slide. And this is the joy, like again, I said, this is the joy that we are giving to the kids in education. We don't want to squash their creativity. We don't want to squash them as humans. We want them to come through and to be who they were meant to be. Next slide. And you can see the joy in the faces, and the feeling of safety that they have when they're at our place. Next slide. They build their own little lodges, and they're out all the time, like in the winter, all the seasons. There's no bad weather. There's just poor clothing. That's kind of our motto. Get the right clothes, and then you can, well, as long as it's not too cold, but we use common sense too. But the kids get to pick their lodges, have their lessons outside, have their snacks outside. Next slide. We do maple tapping, so the kids get to learn all the language around all of that we have lost, and we bring it back. That's the whole nice thing about, like, we're also learning a lot of that language that we didn't have. Next slide. And then we have a partner that Hayes Farm it's called, and they are a teaching learning farm too. So you come there and they'll teach you how to farm and do so we take the kids there quite a bit so that they can go be in that environment as well. Next slide. And there's our wigwam, and where they do a lot of their storytelling, and sometimes they just like to sit in this little sandbox that Stephen made for them. And in the winter time, especially when the sand, we can't get to the sand. Next slide. And sometimes they just like to paint rocks and go put them around the park for people to find, making that connection with people. Next slide. And here's me and Maggie telling stories. Like all winter, we tell stories a lot with the kids, and sometimes they fall asleep, but it's okay. And sometimes we take them outside and we do stories outside with them, so it's fun. That's part of the whole learning process. Next slide. Again here, learning about the creatures that are outside in the park, and next slide. Yeah, next slide. They're doing math there. That's math. So they're learning to count. They count the twigs, they count the dutuas, and next slide. There's me at the end of a day after working with the kids. We do a lot of hanging around. Okay, next slide. This is a year that just finished. This is our program has grown. Like, we do have a curriculum team too that works on resource development. What little funding we do get from Heritage Canada, we put toward resource development. So one of the things that's different from the school system and this is why we kind of drifted away from wanting to really be part of the school system, is because what we want to prioritize for teachers is that we want them to have at least a 2-year language intensive program in Wollostonecraft. We want them to either have some land-based education, and we want them to be good with children. So we have to know that they've had some experience working with children, or we have to, we bring, if we feel that they're going to be a good fit, we'll bring them in for a couple months and just see how they are with the kids. And that's kind of how we determine who's a good fit for us and who's not. Next slide. Oh, we had the Governor General come Mary Simon, we were one of the sites that she wanted to come. Okay, next slide. And we have some resources now. This is my cousin. She did this dictionary, Goose Dictionary in our language. So it's my mom sitting in the middle. She's the youngest. Next slide. And then there's the Takǔmegoochk and Wolastoqey language portal. So there's 2 dictionaries we have online. And then next slide. And these are some of the resources that we've created. We have an app you can go on and download it onto your phone and learn Wolastoqey. And we've developed a level 1 textbook for beginner learners. And we have a science series of books. We have another curriculum book. So we have, and we're just finishing off 10 new books from this summer. So we're busy people. Next slide. And so you might ask yourself, how can we help? Well, this is kind of the cycle of helping, like ways to support Takǔmegoochk. You know, one of the things I ask is if you can't afford to, or if you don't have time, or whatever, learn some language, help to preserve our language. Because, you know, we need people to talk to in our language. We need people, in order for a language to survive, you need people that are speaking that language. So feel free to go on our resources and learn our language and, you know, encourage others to do it as well. You know, support projects that promote Wolastoqey language revitalization. Donate, we have a GoFundMe. And Olnowig also has a philanthropic donation where if you need a receipt, they will provide a receipt to you. Or you can just go on our GoFundMe page. And, you know, we'd like to have partners. I think that's really the support that you're talking about, whether it's be Women of First Light or Takǔmegoochk. There's so many things that we're trying to do to heal ourselves, to make ourselves well, and to also share with the rest of the world so much of what we know and how we can make life better for all of us. I think that's really important. Next slide. I think that's it. Chiwaliwin. Sorry it was so long, but it's a hard thing to condense all the work that we've been doing all these years. Is there any questions? A couple. I'd entertain a couple, maybe. No?
Very impressive work. Communities, just want to say that. What happens to the children after the education? Where do they go out?
So this is the challenge we're being faced with right now, because our vision was to that we would every year we would build another year. Well, we don't really have the space because we're just got that one classroom. We do have one child that's been with us for 2 years, and another we might have 2 that have done 2 years and have stayed with us. They go to the regular school system, which is usually in the communities. They have some language there, but not like the immersion that what we teach. So what we're seeing with those kids, though, what we've witnessed is that those kids that go into those systems, they're excelling. Like they are winning the awards. They're like, you can see how they have gone. We had one kid literally that would not speak when he came to us, would not hold his head up. He just stood there the whole time and wouldn't talk to any kids, would not respond. Like to go from that to like, he's out here now, he's speaking, he's playing with kids, he's like, he just loves, and he wanted to come back, but we could, like this year, because there was some problems with renewal of our lease that with the city, that they took so long to do it. We couldn't take students this year because we weren't guaranteed to have space. So we were kind of in a position where it's, you know, so we just found out yesterday. I met with the representative from the city, and I was like, well, thank you, but I don't know if we're gonna be, like most of the families have had to put their kids in other programs. So, we're gonna try to see what we can do, but I mean, it's very frustrating. And, you know, I think the thing is with working with allies is, you know, they have good intentions, but it's like, you know, to sit and ask, what do you need us to do? Like, what can we do to help? Like, I think that really is a big question that a lot of people don't ask. Because they just assume that they know, or they think they know what we want. But it's not the case, and it really can cause, you know, problems. So that, we're not stopping though. Like I said, we are creating resources like so that we can feed the schools as well. So we want those resources to go into the school system. So, and we're going to try to see what we can do to help support the schools this year so that we can start again next year in the fall. So thanks for asking that question. Is there another? Good. Great. Thanks for your time, William.
Well, alio to everybody. I just want to clarify. We're not getting lots of money. We get money, which we never thought about. But why they like us is we are not for profit and we are a charitable organization. So, you know, there's that. Anyone that wants to go to Tatamagouche, you had to sign up for the bus. So anyone who's coming, we'll see you there tomorrow. Right on. I have brochures, but I left them in my car. That's why I've been fiddling, saying, how can I get up the hill, get those brochures and bring them back? Because Ishbel said, don't forget the brochures. I have this authority problem. Someone says, don't do something, I do.
I also have brochures if anybody wants to learn more about Takǔmegoochk. Thanks.